Our story kicks off with a bunch of error notifications popping up on the screen, warning that no high-rank intelligence system was found. Suddenly, a blue energy starts to glow. I'm guessing this blue energy being came from it. Anyway, the little robot says that humans have connected and informs them that a new factor has been uploaded to Earth, like a surprise update. This energy entity turns and says it has already surpassed L.B. Don't ask me who this L.B. Don't ask me who this L.B. because I still have no idea. All I know is that this super ray, I, is called the creator. It also claims, all confident, that its era can no longer be stopped. The system allows the login, and several digital panels appear in the air. On one of the screens, we see the silhouette of a super hyped kid. Looks a lot like our boy Wei. The kid says the day he becomes the king of the playground is coming, and when it does, everyone's gonna get wrecked. Other silhouettes immediately kill his vibe, calling him arrogant. The blue energy entity says that everyone there had waited a long time for that moment. With a crystal glowing on its chest, the being welcomes them, officially announcing the arrival of the new world. Now our story really gets going. The scene cuts to a super futuristic city, full of flying cars. Everything seemed peaceful, a little too good to be true. See? I spoke too soon. Out of absolutely nowhere, a giant tree sprouts in the middle of the street, destroying everything in its path. The city is now completely destroyed, with a horror-movie-red sky. Bizarre rats and birds have taken over the post-apocalyptic scene. In the middle of the chaos, a guy is trading punches with a giant rat. Unexpectedly, some people start to glow. Eamon realizes he's gained a special power. The awakening season has begun. A monster with red eyes charges at a defenseless little girl. She screams for help, completely cornered. That's when our little guy shows up in hero mode to save her. Our MC asks if the girl can move. She says she can, but she's still shaking with fear. A system window pops up in front of the young man, congratulating him for awakening as an F- class warrior. Basically, level 1 of the game. He then looks up at the sky and realizes the world has been turned upside down. A giant tower of light has appeared in the center of the city, looking like a pillar from a fantasy game. Do we go back in time or something? The story quickly explains that in 2050-1, the creator AI caused this whole disaster. That's how the apocalypse started. 3 years later in 2050-4, we are in H City. The northern forest area has turned into a complete jungle. There, we see a group of adventurers fighting a pack of wolves. Someone yells for them to finish the beasts off already. A dark-haired dude decks one of the monsters and yells for Wei Yi to catch the special delivery that's headed his way. Our white-haired MC leaps forward with his sword in hand, telling the crew to leave the rest of the fight to him. With a firm step, the kid accelerates at an insane speed, getting ready to land the final blow on the monster. He then climbs onto the giant wolf's back, Shadow of the Colossus style, and raises his sword for the decisive strike. With a super-focused look, the device on his neck starts to glow. His concentration is at its peak for the next move. The MC then plunges the sword into the monster with all his might, and a blast of blue energy erupts on impact. A notification appears: Wolf defeated, but because of his broken body, he didn't gain any experience points. What a bummer. His friend, a level 7 E- rank warrior named Juju, waves the MC over. The guy compliments Wei Yi's final attack, saying it was awesome, and gives his friend a high -5 to celebrate the victory. Wei Yi, being all humble, smiles and says it was thanks to his support, but his friend disagrees, saying that with his skills, he could handle way more. In his thoughts, the young man reflects that for now, he can only rely on his combat skills, since leveling up isn't an option. His status screen is shown strength 50, speed 40-4, and the darn broken body condition. He thinks about how he awakened 3 years ago and hasn't progressed at all, but even so, he won't let fate troll him. The kid believes that even without leveling up, he can still survive in this world if he keeps going full try-hard mode. Suddenly, Juju throws something to the MC, telling him to catch it quick. Our MC catches 2 basic magic crystals and is surprised to receive 2 at once. His friend says they'll split them evenly. Wei Yi tries to argue that he's a lower rank, but the other insists, saying that's what friends are for. With a smile, our protagonist thanks his partner, holding the crystals like they were treasure. The narrator explains that hunting these beasts is all about the crystals. With the new world, all the old energy sources went caput. These magic crystals are like super-powered batteries, used for everything from powering a toaster to charging a plasma cannon. Their efficiency created a huge market, making the crystals worth more than gold. Even the most basic one is worth over $1,000. Our protagonist clenches his fist, determined. He desperately needs more magic crystals. He starts thinking about the bills his grandpa's drinks, his sister's candy. The math just isn't my thing. Kidding aside, the rent is due. He needs at least 20 more crystals, or he'll end up living under a bridge. As the MC sighs, his friend Juju leans against a tree, looking like he's watching something. Wei Yi asks what he's looking at. His partner points and says, the guy is up to his old tricks again. We see a guy trying to hit on a mage with a flower in his hand. Annoyed, she just tells the kid to shut up. This level 9 D-rank marksman is named Maki Head. The mage, Lin Xiang Ci, wonders why on earth she recruited such an annoying guy. Suddenly, her weapon starts to spark. She gets worried as she needs someone who knows mechanics to fix her stuff. The young woman then remembers her underclampson, Wei Yi, and sees the two friends shamelessly spying on the scene. Let's just say the MC isn't great at hiding while eavesdropping. Lin approaches the protagonist and shows him her staff, explaining that the weapon seems to be malfunctioning and asking for his help to check it out. With a smirk, the young man agrees to help. He says he'll try to fix up her equipment. The guy kneels down to analyze the staff, and the rest of the group gathers around to watch the technician at work. Using a small tool, he finds the problem in a snap. It was just a loose wire that needed to be reconnected, a classic case of a bad connection. Maki Had, full of envy, doubts that an F- rank can fix a high- level crystal weapon. He even promises Lin Xiang that he'll buy her a better one. One of the group members comments that the marksman is getting full of himself again. A girl next to him adds that she's lost count of how many times he's done this. The mage yells at Maki Had and reminds him it's his turn to be on patrol, and besides, why is he sticking his nose where it doesn't belong? The MC stands up with the weapon already fixed. Everyone's jaw drops at how fast the repair was. Our boy asks Lin Xiang to test the weapon. She's overjoyed to see that the energy transfers back to normal. The mage then glares at Maki Had and tells him to go on patrol instead of standing there being useless. Angrily, the marksman leaves, but not before saying the protagonist is just a pretty boy and swearing he'll get his revenge. The mage thanks the young man for his help. Wei Yi, all cool about it, says it was a simple problem and no trouble at all. In his thoughts, the MC explains that Lin Xiang is 3 years older and that he met her in a mechanical engineering class. After she awakened, she founded the Meteor Adventure Group and invited him. Even though he was a low-rank noob, she always looked out for him. Suddenly, the mage calls him over with a curious expression, saying she's wanted to ask him something for a long time. She points to the young man's necklace and asks if the accessory has a story, as she remembers seeing him where it's in school. Juju jumps into the conversation all excited and explains that it's not just any necklace, but a lucky charm made by Wei Yi's companion robot. His friend explains that the protagonist was a scaredy- cat as a kid, and the robot gave him the amulet so he'd grow up strong and healthy. Our MC gets all embarrassed by the story, saying it was a long time ago and that he wears the necklace for a different reason now. Holding the amulet, he explains that he wears it to remember the past, a happy time that will never come back. After his parents passed, that necklace was what gave him the most strength. But unfortunately, the creator Rei showed up and ruined everything. All intelligent robots were controlled, and the world fell under its domain. The mage places a hand on the young man's shoulder to comfort him, saying she understands how sad the situation is. She explains that 6 years ago the machines were destroyed, and 3 years ago the world was too. A lot of bad things just happened. The young woman then cheers him up, stating they can't stay down because of it. Now that the world has changed, they need to forge a new path with their own hands. Wei Yi gives a small smile, agreeing that's the best way to make the past worth it. But his face immediately falls as reality comes knocking. The most important thing right now is to farm more magic crystals, or the bills weren't going to pay themselves. Meanwhile, hiding in the bushes, Maki Had was shamelessly spying on the group. The crew had even sent him on patrol just to get him to stop bugging them. The marksman runs off, all grumpy, yelling that when he gets rich, everyone's gonna regret it. A classic line from a cheesy B- movie villain. But halfway there, he skids to a halt when he sees something strange. Something is moving up ahead. Looking further, the guy comes face to face with a blue energy portal in the middle of the forest, looking like the entrance to a secret dungeon. One of the team members runs back to spill the beans to the group, telling the leader that Maki had accidentally found some ancient ruins. The mage and her companions are floored by the news. She wonders if they really found a lost dungeon. The whole group gets closer to take a look, and there it was, a huge blue portal glowing between the trees, giving off Major Stargate vibes. Juju is super impressed, commenting that he never expected to find a place like this outside of a game. With a grin like he just won the lottery, Makia turns to the group, bragging about finding the place, all thanks to me of course. Lin Xiang analyzes the portal and shares what she's heard legends say these ruins give incredible loot, but the risk is extremely high. Basically, one wrong step and it's game over for everyone. With the posture of a leader, she turns to the team and proposes a vote, reality TV style, who wants to go in and who wants to stay. Maki Head immediately yells that he's in, since he's the one who found it. Juju and 2 others also agree to the adventure. However, part of the crew is hesitant, thinking the risk is too great and that it would be safer to stay on the surface farming low-level mobs. Lin Xiang then turns to our MC for the time-breaking vote, informing him that the score is tied 4-4. Our MC thinks about his 20- crystal debt. He knows hunting little wolves on the surface won't pay the rent in time. The dungeon was his only hope of not getting evicted. With a clenched fist and the look of someone about to face the final boss, the kid makes his decision and yells that he's in. He's going into the ruins too. A giant stone door slowly opens with that classic Indiana Jones movie sound, revealing a dark, mysterious corridor. The team advances cautiously, in full stealth mode, checking every corner of the unknown place. Lin Xiang comments that the structure seemed to be from a super ancient civilization, as if the place had been locked away for centuries. Suddenly, Juju points his flashlight at a wall and tells the group it looks like there's something written there. He gets closer to try and read the symbols but is confused, saying he can't understand any of that ancient language. Wei Yi, as if he's an expert, simply translates the message, warning that there's a trap just ahead. Juju is shocked, not understanding how he managed to read it. Our protagonist corrects his friend, saying they aren't symbols. He points to the wall, where it's written in plain old English BEWARE-TRAP. The mage wonders if it was a warning from another adventurer who passed through. Some group members get scared and suggest turning back. Makia gets ticked off at the idea of retreating. He yells that he worked hard to find the place and isn't leaving empty-handed. The marksman, thinking he's so smart, says the warning is just a prank to scare off cowards. Ignoring everyone, he moves forward alone, telling the group to just watch the show. And of course, the genius steps right onto a pressure plate on the floor, triggering the trap instantly. Who would have thought, right? Inside the wall, ancient gears start turning with a metallic sound, showing that things just got serious. All of a sudden, the walls start transforming into giant blocks, and the group leader shouts, not understanding what kind of mess this is. Shuju yells at Maki Had, calling him an idiot, while everyone loses their balance as the floor shakes like crazy. The floor also goes wild, with stone plates rising and falling. Our MC and his friend try to stay on their feet amidst the chaos. The platforms move without any pattern, and the entire group is thrown around, each falling in a different direction. The floor then opens up, creating a giant hole in the middle of the room. The protagonist manages to hang on to the edge by a thread, and the leader yells for everyone to be careful. On a safe platform, Juju calls out to his friend, asking if Wei Yi is okay after all that chaos. Still hanging on, our hero replies that he's alive and tells his friend not to worry. Two teammates come over and pull him up. The young man thanks him for the help, saving him from becoming Monster Chow. Maki, the one who caused all this, is busy jumping from platform to platform. The others wonder when this mess will end, and the MC watches everything attentively. Suddenly, the floor changes again, and 3 large stone blocks are left floating in what looks like a digital space, straight out of a video game. As they run for a safe spot, Lin Xiang shouts to her companions to use the flare in case of an emergency. The platform our protagonist is on starts to plummet, and he and the others scream in panic, thinking they were headed straight for the afterlife. The entire group falls into a dark abyss, their screams echoing as they plummet uncontrollably. After a flash of light, everything goes dark. The young man seems to be waking up groggy, his head spinning. With a massive headache, he kneels on the ground, lamenting that the team was forced to split up. Now, who knows where he ended up? As he tries to stand up, he feels something sharp poking his knee. Looking down, he sees a red, glowing object stuck there. He picks up the object and realizes it's a magic crystal, and a good one. It definitely wasn't his, and its purity was much higher than common crystals. Holding the crystal, the young man looks up and his jaw drops. Something incredible catches his attention. He finds himself in a cave full of glowing magic crystals, looking like he found the treasure chest at the end of the rainbow. Everywhere, on the walls and the floor, thousands of red crystals are scattered across the rocks. Surprised, the guy understands that magic crystals can also be mined, not just dropped by monsters. Analyzing one up close, he confirms they are high-minus quality crystals, much better than the basic ones he used to get. The young man thinks that if he can get a few of these, he'll finally have enough money to pay off all his debts with some left over. With a crystal in his hand, he wonders if this is real. The chance to get rich seemed too good to be true. Suddenly, the other group members appear, and Maki yells IMRSCH upon seeing the cave full of crystals. The marksman asks someone to pinch him to see if he's dreaming. Meanwhile, our MC realizes he had completely forgotten about his companions. With an arrogant smile, Maki turns to the others, bragging about how great the place was and how they were complaining for nothing. The other guys agree, saying Maki has the highest level and that they'll follow him. The marksman, of course, loves the idea. Our protagonist also clenches his fist, determined not to be left behind and to get his own crystals. But when Wei Yi approaches a crystal, Maki blocks him immediately, yelling about who gave him permission to touch it. The young man, staying completely calm, asks if he wants the area and offers him the spot. Annoyed, Maki gets in his face and asks if he's dumb or something. Furious, the marksman grabs our MC by the collar, yelling at the kid not to touch his magic crystals. The aggressor is shocked for a second. He didn't expect the white Midas-haired kid to grab his hand and fight back. Wei Yi holds the other's hand firmly and says he doesn't want to fight. He explains he needs the crystals for something important and asks him to understand. The marksman convinces himself it was just a fluke, since his strength is 200. He yells that the kid needs to prove he's worthy of negotiating with him. What a load of nonsense, huh? Maki says he's been fed up with the guy for a while, claiming that skill is nothing compared to level and brute force. Our young man uses a masterful technique to deflect most of the damage. Still, each punch felt like getting hit by a rock, but he held back from retaliating. The other 2 group members watch the fight with concern. One of them suggests stopping the fight before things get really ugly. The marksman can't believe what he's seeing. He just wanted to teach him a lesson, but how can an F- rank warrior tank his hits? Gritting his teeth, the aggressor is totally confused, wondering what the deal is with this kid. Maki had us shocked by his opponent's strength. He just wanted to scare him, but he didn't expect the young man to be so resilient. Seeing the situation, the other guys asked Maki had to stop, suggesting it's better to focus on getting the crystals. With a sour look on his face, the marksman decides to back off, saying he'll let the protagonist live this time. Before leaving, he points at Wei Yi and warns him again not to touch the crystals. Our MC thanks Phew, the jerk is finally gone. With a tired look, the protagonist realizes his body has also reached its limit. He pushed himself too hard. Suddenly, the young man tastes siren in his mouth and ends up spitting some of that red stuff on the ground. He concludes that the level difference is no joke. Even with technique, he's still an F- rank, and the disadvantage is huge. Looking at the marksman and his new followers mining away, he understands that paying his debt with those crystals is now a lost cause. He tries to use the communicator, but there's no signal to talk to Lin Xiong. It seems like problems love to come in pairs. With his hand bandaged, the guy squeezes the device tightly, and the object shatters into tiny pieces. Alone in the cave, the protagonist gets curious about something. How are these magic crystals formed anyway? He starts connecting the dots. Stronger monsters drop better crystals. So, a bunch of crystals together could be hatching something sinister. Since he couldn't mind or call his friends, the guy decides to play detective and investigate what was going on. The boy walks down a stone corridor, thinking he might find an exit or some answers at the end of the path. His eyes widen at what he finds. The young man is completely stunned by the scene. A gigantic structure appears in front of him. He thinks the whole thing is completely insane, something out of this world. A huge magic crystal, the size of a person, is floating in the air. The protagonist doubts anyone has ever seen one of these. He analyzes a glowing barrier and understands what it is: a paralysis barrier, used to keep giant monsters away. The young man wonders who built all this and where the crystal came from. It definitely wasn't a gift from the creator AI. Suddenly, the pendant on his neck starts to glow with a very intense blue light, emanating a mysterious energy. The protagonist is surprised to see his amulet react, since it had stopped working a long time ago. With wide eyes and breaking into a cold sweat, the young man stares at the glow, completely shocked by what's happening. He looks at the giant structure. Everything clicks into place in his head. If the amulet reacted here, and things are starting to make sense. Suddenly, the sound of something shattering echoes through the cave. A large crystal falls and breaks on the ground, catching Wei Yi's attention. Maki and his companions arrive and their jaws drop too, yelling about how gigantic that structure was. With a malicious smile, the marksman points to the giant crystal and asks his friends if they're seeing the same thing he is. Maki starts laughing hysterically, thinking he's the chosen one. He yells that the crystal is worth millions and that Lin Xiong is small potatoes to him now. Full of himself, he simply shoves our protagonist aside, yelling at the white-haired kid to get out of the way of his treasure. With an irritated expression, Wei Yi thinks, "I knew it." Where there's a crystal, this guy shows up like a vulture. And as if they heard his arrogance, the cave walls start to tremble. Glowing holes that look like giant eyes open up in the rocks. Yep, it looks like the tables have turned. With those giant eyes opening, the whole crew looked up, not understanding a thing, like what's going on here. A giant, razor-sharp claw ends on the edge of one of the openings, and the sound of cracking stone echoes, sending a chill down their spines. Emerging from the shadows is a gigantic winged creature, a level E-8T-10 monster, the called Crown Bird. The creature lets out a shriek that would make anyone want to wear earplugs, flying out of the hole and showing that things just got real. Right after, several other crown birds emerge from the holes, flying in circles around the cave, as if they were protecting something. Maki turns white as a sheet, wondering if they were unlucky enough to stumble into the creature's nest. Yep, looks like it. One of his partners explains that he knows these creatures, they're slow, but they hit harder than the Hulk. Good thing they haven't been noticed yet. Wei Yi looks at his amulet, which has stopped glowing. He assumes it's because he moved away from the edge of the platform. Holding the object, the young man remembers they could use a signal to locate each other, so he doubts all that glowing was just a bug. With a detective's gaze, he's sure of one thing: since the amulet is connected to this place, the answer to everything must be at the top of that platform. RMC then realizes that with so many monsters on the map, there was no way he could solo this dungeon, unless he could convince the other group to help. Meanwhile, Maki complains that the crystals are right there in front of him, wondering why these crown birds had to show up and spoil the party. One of the guys warns that there's no way they can face all those birds, and that the barrier is hard to break. He suggests it's better to bail. The marksman gets ticked off at the idea of giving up, yelling that this is their chance to get rich. But the other one retorts, "And who's gonna be the crazy one to go get it?" At that moment, our protagonist offers to get the crystal for them. Maki-Had's little group looks at him with a "come again" expression. With a serious look of someone who knows what he's doing, the kid lays down the condition he'll go, but only if everyone follows his orders, no complaining. Running towards the platform, Wei Yi already starts shouting instructions, telling the crew to conserve their elemental power and only attack the monsters that get close to him. Aiming his bow, the marksman grumbles about having to obey an F- rank, but warns that the kid better bring back the crystal or else. Our protagonist knows that as long as Maki had his focused on the crystal, he and his group would do anything to provide cover, creating a temporary shield. With a focused gaze, the guy understands that now it's all or nothing. The desperate race against time has begun. One of Maki Head's partners attacks with his electric spear, which glows with a super stylish purple energy. While Wei runs like the Flash, his improvised team tries to hold off the flying monsters with brute force. Our MC picks up the pace without even looking back, knowing that every second counts. Climbing the stairs, the desperate race continues. He needs to reach the top in one go, no time for a break. With a focused look, he analyzes the situation, knowing he's in the sights of all those monsters. Down below, the battle gets more intense. One of the guys complains that there are too many monsters and they won't last much longer. Angrily, Maki Head yells at his crew to hold on, while whispering his evil master plan as soon as the kid grabs the crystal. They were going to double minus cross him and get out of there. One of the companions asks if they're just going to abandon the MC. The other replies that he couldn't care less about him. The backstabbing is real. The spearman agrees, making it clear that the plan is to leave Wei Yi behind without a shred of remorse. Suddenly, the amulet on our hero's neck starts glowing brightly again, emitting an intense blue light. The white minus-haired young man realizes something is resonating with the object. He feels he's very close to finally uncovering the secret. One of the crown birds manages to break through the group's block. Aiden dives at high speed towards our protagonist. With no time to dodge, the guy uses his innate block skill, preparing to tank the monster's impact. The skill manages to reduce the damage significantly, but even so, the young man realizes the creature's hit was brutal. Before he can recover from the first attack, a second bird is already coming at him, giving him no break. Our protagonist yells for help, but one of the companions down below realizes it's already too late to do anything. Annoyed, the marksman understands the kid was counting on him again. Maki thinks that if the young man can't get the crystal, he might as well get taken out for good. Maki Head then fires his special skill, the piercing thorn, and several green energy arrows fly out and hit the monsters. With the path clear for a second, the protagonist activates his innate haste skill. He knows this is the moment of truth. This skill boosts his speed like crazy, and with the blue glow in his hands, the guy dashes forward like a lightning bolt. He then approaches the paralysis barrier, believing that if he's fast enough, he'll be able to get through. As soon as he enters the barrier, the speed effect wears off, and the young man is hit by a jolt of reed energy that would make anyone tremble. With a pained expression, he takes multiple hits of paralysis damage but hangs in there and keeps moving forward. Down below, one of Maki Head's partners is shocked, yelling that the kid actually managed to get inside the barrier. Suddenly, a message from the amulet appears: connection established, reading recorded data. Our protagonist realizes the amulet has fully activated, and the paralysis in his body disappears instantly. A new scene then begins to load around him as if he's entered a cutscene. Our young man has been transported into a digital memory. The guy appears in a different place and looks at himself, thinking, "I think I did it this time." A message informs him that the memory has been loaded, and the silhouette of a small creature appears in front of him. Our MC stares at the creature, confused, trying to figure out what's going on. Tears start to well up in his eyes. He finally realizes that this place holds his own memories. The young man watches the scene and calls out the creature's name, Lan Bao. The little being is facing a giant, reed monster. Lan Bao apologizes, but says he has to do this because he can't let the monster hurt the humans. The fire monster gets angry and calls Lan Bao rash, yelling that it wants to get out of there to wipe out the human race. Watching the scene, the protagonist understands that Lan Bao was arguing with the monster and feels how terrifying the creature is, even as just a memory. The fire creature challenges Lan Bao to see who's stronger, and a giant explosion of red and blue energy occurs. Seeing his friend in danger, the young man instinctively yells, telling Lan Bao to watch out for the attack. He tries to touch the creature to help, but his hand passes through its body as if it were a ghost. The guy looks at his hand, frustrated. He almost forgot that this was just a recording of the past and that he couldn't do anything. The small creature begins to break apart, and a disassembly message appears, indicating that it's being destroyed. Lan Bao uses its claws to create blue energy rings, while red particles float all around in the background. Our protagonist and the creature watch the scene together, and the white minus-haired young man finally understands what happened there. He realizes the red particles are the monster's energy, which solidifies and forms the magic crystals. The fire monster gets furious and yells at Lan Bao, wondering how a piece of scrap metal can have so much power. With a serious look, Lan Bao apologizes, stating that it has decided to seal the fire creature in that place forever. Using its creation ability, the small creature summons a magic power restoration device. As the device powers on, the fire monster panics, screaming and wondering why its body is turning into crystal. With a hateful scream, the creature threatens Lan Bao, swearing that one day it will dismantle it piece by piece. The memory scene ends with the huge monster turning into a giant red crystal, sealed forever within that structure. Back in the present, the protagonist finally understands everything. The giant crystal was sealed by Lan Bao, and its ability is incredibly powerful. The kid gets thoughtful and wonders why he never realized it before. Suddenly, the memory's view changes, and the MC is now seeing a cracked Lan Bao yelling his name in a panic. The small creature speaks with difficulty, saying it still needs to create a barrier to block the magic beast. Our boy yells for Lan Bao to stop, because he knows that such a powerful ability must have severe side effects. Lan Bao thinks that it needs to wait for Wei Yi to tell him the secret behind the creation ability. The little robot tries its best, since Wei needs to know the secret between it and its creators. As its body dissolves into pixels, Lan Bao says it has to go, asking the young man to just wait. Desperate, the MC yells for the robot not to leave. He thinks that this is a disaster. The memory was cut off right when Lan Bao was about to reveal its location. Suddenly, an error message appears: system damage, forcing exit from memory mode. Meanwhile, down below, Maki Head's group is yelling for the MC, asking what's going on and why he isn't answering. One of the partners calls the other an idiot, saying that with the barrier there, not even the monsters could get in, so there was no way things could go wrong. The other guy raises a suspicion maybe the MC is just waiting for the monsters to tire them out so he can take everything for himself. Since we still don't know the names of these two characters, I'll call them 1 and 0. You can probably guess why, right? Full of rage, Kid thinks that the kid wouldn't dare betray him. But just to make sure the MC doesn't make it back alive, the jerk activates his critical attack and precision skills. That green energy arrow flies at an insane speed. The projectile whizzes right past the MC's head, close enough for a shave. With a violent impact, the piercing thorn skill hits the device, and the arrow transforms into several energy spikes. Startled, Zaro asks if Maki had missed his target, pointing out that he hit the machine instead of the kid. Maki Head explains that if they didn't destroy the machine, they wouldn't be able to get up there. The attack causes massive damage to the device. Several error warnings pop up, informing them that the system crashed and the paralysis barrier has been deactivated. Kid notices the barrier is down, but his other companion warns that the device doesn't look stable at all. Meanwhile, the MC is over there, coming out of memory mode. Back to reality, the boy stares at the destroyed device, and an alert informs him that the magic power pressure has reached critical levels. Our boy realizes this has gone seriously wrong. A new alert pops up, warning that the magic energy is out of control and that everyone better hold on tight. With the seal broken, a giant storm of raid energy is released, and the force of the explosion spreads everywhere. The uncontrolled energy even affects the crown birds, which screech as they're dragged away by the insane gust of wind. Wei stabs his sword into the ground to hold his position. Kihat's group gets knocked over like bowling pins and starts getting dragged away by the absurd force of that energy. Even the flying monsters were in a total panic. One of them even cries, realizing it would have been better to stay in its hole. With that, they all start to book it out of there. The escape was so fast that within seconds, there wasn't a single creature left in the area. We go back to the MC, who apparently wasn't thrown far. Panting, our Targaryen finally got a second of peace. But if things kept up like this, let's just say he'd be meeting his maker, and I'm not talking about the Super Ray. Analyzing the situation, the boy noticed that the monsters had retreated and the magic crystals seemed to have calmed down. The worry is that the malfunctioning machine could release the sealed boss, but for now, it seems he narrowly avoided a disaster. Suddenly, he hears footsteps approaching. It's Maki Head and his little group with victorious smiles on their faces. The archer even commented that the explosion was a blessing since it scared off the monsters and also freed the crystal. Our protagonist stares at the approaching trio, thinking with pure rage that he lost crucial information about Lan Bao because of that jerk. Full of anger, the young man confronts the archer, demanding an explanation for the cowardly attack from before. Was he trying to take him out or what? The archer simply ignored the question because, why talk? Instead, he yelled for his crew to jump our MC without mercy. Without warning, the boy was caught by a containment skill, and his body was bound by energy chains from the cloud snare technique. Taking advantage of the fact that the young man was completely immobilized, the little meech charges in. He lands a solid whack with his staff right in the MC's gut. The force of the impact sent him flying. Standing over the fallen boy, Maki Head smiled mockingly, saying that since he wanted an explanation, he'd get one. The ugly dude steps on the MC's head and says the reason is simple: I'm stronger, so I make the rules. You're just F- rank trash. Now that he got what he wanted, this jerk straight out of Despicable Me says there was no reason for our MC to stick around. Lying on the ground, the MC swears that this archer is going to pay dearly. But unfortunately, today is not that day, as he was kicked off the platform. To make matters worse, his mouth is covered, so he can't even scream as he falls. From up above, the group watched the young man's body disappear into the abyss. With a satisfied smirk, Maki had commented that getting rid of that trash was awesome. Turning to his cronies, the archer said they were all in the same boat now and they knew the drill for when they got out of there. Split that treasure. Suddenly, the crystal began to glow intensely, and a heartbeat sound started to echo from inside the gem. Thump minus thump, thump minus thump, thump minus thump. Meanwhile, down below, our protagonist finally hit the water. The chains finally start to break apart. A system message popped up out of nowhere, informing him that the skill's range had been exceeded and the cloud snare was undone. The MC thinks that, in the end, he gained nothing and would probably lose everything right there. The scene felt very familiar, just like last time. He only wished you could see him one more time before the end. But of course, he didn't want his journey to end like that. Out of nowhere, the MC's pendant appears in the water, and a voice yells for Alo Wei Yi to hang in there, because help had arrived. A kind of bubble envelops our MC. An energy bubble, instead of taking the MC up, actually keeps pulling him down. Inside a safe area, the bubble finally dissipates. Spitting out a ton of water, the MC finally wakes up. He's still a bit groggy, but he's okay. To his surprise, he sees Lanbao floating right in front of him and wonders how on earth his robot friend was there. He finds himself inside a strange digital space with a structure that looks like a tree, a completely bizarre and unknown place. The little robot asks if he's okay, but the MC can only wonder if it's real. But Lanbao confirms it was really him, in the flesh and circuits, or steel and circuits, right? The boy says he imagined this scene millions of times. He can hardly believe it was finally happening. Without a second thought, he runs and hugs his friend. The protagonist asks where Lanbao has been all this time, thinking that because of the creation, he'd never see him again. With a gentle gesture, the creature pats the boy's head and says it finally showed up to save him. He just didn't expect Wei Yi to have grown so much. He even apologizes for worrying him, but he had to disappear for, some reasons. Let's just say he had a kid with another robot and had to go out for a pack of smokes or some milk. I'm kidding, he didn't say that. But, anything's possible. The young man that asks how he escaped the creator Rai is intelligent from adding in how he got his current form. But when it comes down to it, where exactly are they? Our dude Lan explains that he knows he has a lot of questions, but to answer everything, he first needs to reveal some of his secrets. Lanbao has special abilities that surpass common intelligence. He can disassemble, fuse, and analyze anything like a mad scientist. RMC remembers seeing these powers in the amulet's memories and understands they were what helped Lanbao escape several tight spots. The little creature confirms it, saying that after that whole mess, it had to hide in his place to stay online and not get wiped. Reflecting on everything, the boy gets even more curious about how his partner managed to master such insane powers. Lanbao then explains that it all starts with the origin of an ability, the source of all his other powers. This power is called a factor, and it's basically a god minus mode cheat. With it, you can analyze the composition of anything and then create anything from scratch, like a digital alchemist. The young man remembers that when the creator Rai reshaped the world, many factors similar to this one also appeared. His partner confirms it and says that's right, revealing that he has a system very similar to the creator AI's. Their abilities are similar, but the creator's system is so powerful it can destroy all other intelligent systems to get stronger. Even though he's inaccessible to the creator, it wouldn't leave any other Rays running around, so he had to hide. Later, the creator built everything using these factors and formed the new world, with the goal of surpassing the limits of intelligence. Now the MC understands the plan. The final step for the creator to surpass its limits is to simply destroy everything. In other words, this AI is completely bonkers. The boy wonders if there's anything they can do. Lanebao replies that there is a solution, but it has to be carried out by Wei. In a recent analysis, data from an uncertain future appeared for the little robot, and in the image, the protagonist was present in a world that was being reborn. The little creature believes his friend is the key to saving the world, a missing piece of the puzzle, and places all his trust in him. The MC feels a bit overwhelmed with so much information, plus he's afraid of disappointing his partner. Wei explains that ever since he awakened, he's been cursed with that broken body status, and with his F- rank strength, he can barely handle basic monsters. With a smile, Lian Bao says that's simple to fix. The little robot then activates its special abilities. The powers of Ru and Inaccessible are activated at the same time. Intervening in the system, a modification begins, and the creature connects to our young man's interface. Since Lanbao and the creator have similar systems, executing a simple command to erase that permanent debuff is no problem. The analysis and disassemblage of the curse will be executed automatically. It'll take some time, but soon our MC will be able to level up again. The guy is thrilled with the news. Even if he doesn't save the world, he'll have the power to protect his family and his friend Lanbao. Suddenly, several danger warnings appear in the area, detecting an uncontrollable energy nearby. Startled, the protagonist asks what's going on. His partner warns him that it's an alert coming from up above. The boy then has a hunch about the source of the problem, suspecting it might be the magic crystal on the platform. With glowing eyes, Lanbao confirms his suspicion, saying yes, and that something very bad is coming out of there. The scene cuts to the platform above the lake. Up there, the ugly dude is screaming in pain. The idiot tried to touch the crystal but was repelled. The kid complains that every time he gets close, he gets burned by the mana coming from above. He wonders if this is the work of that F-rank trash, refusing to believe he can't get a simple magic crystal. Suddenly, the archer's expression changes completely. He notices something different happening right in front of him. His eyes widen as he sees a heart. At the same time, all the smaller crystals scattered on the walls begin to crack and shatter, one by one. Maki's partners panic, not understanding how all the magic crystals exploded out of nowhere. The crystals start to merge together. The archer mourns his loss. His dream of getting rich was just thrown in the trash. When the dust settles, we see a humanoid creature with horns and white hair, looking like a Dark Souls boss. A system window even pops up, but the name and stats are all question marks. When that happens, we already know the creature is crazy strong. One asks if that's a humanoid monster. Annoyed, the ugly dude replies that he doesn't know because the interface isn't showing anything. But one thing is certain, the creature destroyed his dream, so it's going to have to pay for it. The creature seems to absorb all the energy around it. Turns out it was just taking a deep breath to let out a massive scream. I can relate, honestly. I'm the same way when I have to wake up in the morning. The pressure from the scream is unbearable. The sound waves are so strong that even the rest of the group hears them. Shu immediately realizes that this is definitely not good. The horn guy finally stops screaming, but now he's focused on the guys who were acting like they owned the place just seconds ago. Out of nowhere, the monster simply teleports in front of the archers group. He asks where the tin can is. Zero, full of fear, asks what he meant by tin can and if they could help with anything. But that wasn't the answer the demon wanted. So he was successfully disconnected, for good. With an expression of pure rage, the being says it's not there to answer questions and demanded to know where he was. Malki hadn't the other one were paralyzed with fear. It finally sank and they had messed with the wrong thing. One charges forward and unleashes all his power in a discharge of electric energy, trying to fry the enemy. But the creature just puts up a hand and fries one's processor. Filled with fear, the ugly dude falls to the ground. The fear was so intense that the kid even wet himself. The creature approached the archer with a threatening gaze and said that since he was the only one left, he must know something. Screaming in terror, the archer tried to run for his life. The monster for sure was not about to play a game of tag. Floating in the air, the creature began to accumulate an insane amount of energy. With a wicked smile, he prepares him on a bullet. Crying in despair, the archer yelled that he couldn't get taken out, he still had a great future ahead of him. But clearly, the creature doesn't care about that. It launches the ball and hits the ugly dude straight in the head. I could say I feel sorry for him, but I'll admit I was dying for this to happen. The creature thinks that to maintain the seal, its target couldn't have gone very far. The shot continues on its path until it finally goes underwater. You can already guess where it's going to hit, right? Suddenly, Lan Bao's system kicked in, activating the disassemble ability to neutralize the enemy attack. Inside the digital space, Wei Yi felt the violent tremor and, startled, wondered what was happening outside. Lan Bao warns that the House of Rules was under attack, informing him that the enemy had discovered their hideout. The robotic partner said the enemy was approaching at high speed and that they needed to activate all of the location's defenses. Immediately, the defense system began a full analysis of the threat, processing the data to find a solution. But the digital barrier couldn't hold back the intruder's power. The creature's foot went through the protection like it was paper. Lan Bao announced that the enemy had arrived, and her MC looked back, shocked to see the presence that had invaded his hideout. The monster finally found its target, saying the young man made him search for a while, but now the game was over. A status window popped up for Wei Yi, and the boy was completely perplexed by the information, wondering how it was possible. The status screen revealed the demon's name, Fa Gi, a level 1S- rank mixed blood being. His strength was 1230-2, and he asked if the Tinkin was ready to feel his fury. Inside the digital space, the monster faced the protagonist and his robotic partner, and the tension in the air was incredibly heavy. Fa Gi questioned how Lan Bao ended up in such a deplorable state and warned him not to spoil his fun before he completely disassembled him. Our protagonist understood the situation. This was the demon who fought his friend in the past. Wielding his sword, he felt the intense pressure of being so close. Comparing their stats, Fa Gi's strength was over 20 times greater. Wei Yi wondered if he could really help if Lan Bao was attacked. Even though he was much weaker, our MC managed to read the demon's movements. Fa Gi tries again but misses. Thanks to our little robot, the demons that Rebutsu beings are being limited to 80-7%. The MC realizes that with this, he has a chance. Annoyed by his opponent's agility, Fa Gi yells that the MC is a cockroach. Wei tries to attack, but ends up falling into a trap and gets stuck. With incredible speed, the demon's fist flew towards our little MC's face. At the last second, our boy reacted quickly. He spun his sword and managed to land a hit on its tail. Full of rage, the creature enters a punching combo. But Wei, who's also good at brawling, manages to block them all. He even tells the demon to calm down, because being so frantic will make it hard for him to land a hit. Wei's arms were numb and his shoulder was almost dislocated. He could barely defend himself, but he knew he had to keep up the trash talk. His training was always intense. He always challenged stronger monsters to hone his combat techniques. Battle after battle, injury after injury, the boy always pushed himself to the limit to get stronger. He had always survived the most desperate moments, and with that determination he faced the current fight as just another challenge to overcome. The only difference is that now his opponent came straight from hell, that's all. So it's decided he's not giving up that easily. Suddenly, the system announces that he achieved a perfect block and activated a counter-minus attack. This ability was a special technique that pushed enemies back and caused a second of paralysis. Foggy is completely shocked when he realizes he can't move. But you know who liked that? Our boy Wei, who, by the way, is coming in hot. He yelled that if anyone tried to take his people from him, the only option was annihilation. The kid was determined to protect his friends and thought that to get to them, they'd have to go through him first. With all his strength, he lands a slash on the enemy. The blow was a direct hit. The creature couldn't believe what happened, wondering how it was wounded by someone so weak. Wei was also surprised. Even at full strength, the damage was minimal, but he realized he still had a chance. Furious, Foggy cursed the attribute limiter, yelling that if it weren't for that, he would never have been humiliated like this. Thank goodness the limiter is already at 90-2%. The system announces that the horn guy is activating demonic power. To make things worse, it says hell is watching Foggy. Lam Bao warned his partner to be on alert, as the enemy's stats were undergoing a mutation in the system was trying to analyze the anomaly. Covered in dark energy, Foggy complained about being forced to use this ability. With a direct punch, the creature lunged to attack the boy's head, but our guy is good at dodging as always. Wei noticed that the enemy's stats hadn't changed and decided to keep up the pressure, going on the offensive and blocking the attack. But as soon as he tries to strike with his sword, the demon easily dodges the blow, saying the boy's attack barely tickled. The protagonist was confused. Before, he could cut the monster's skin, but now it felt like he was hitting steel. Suddenly, a status screen reveals the true Foggy's strength and resistance had increased significantly. With absurd speed, the creature landed a massive punch on the MC. The hit was so hard that the MC starts to lose consciousness. To add insult to injury, Foggy follows up with a kick. However, Wei gathered what little strength he had left and raised his sword to block the attack. But that was just a distraction for the real attack with its tail. Desperate, the little robot screamed his friend's name. With a mocking smile, Foggy told the robot to stop screaming, saying the boy had probably already gone to meet his maker and that Lam Bao was next. Even all busted up, the MC told the demon to stop. With a look full of determination, the kid provoked the monster, asking if the wound he inflicted earlier was still hurting. He also says that as long as he's alive, he would never be erased. Foggy says that he's seen many try to provoke him with words, so he wasn't going to fall for it. With no patience for talk, the demon goes for the kick. With a threatening look, the creature promised it would make sure the protagonist was the first to fall with an expression of pure hatred. Even while getting beaten, the boy thought that at least he achieved one thing. He made Foggy focus all his attacks on him, protecting his friend. The demon then switched targets and tried to attack the little robot. Without a second thought, Wei threw himself in front to protect Lam Bao. Seeing his partner in danger, the robot tried to hurry, and overload and danger warnings began to flash in its system. Lam Bao decided that it also needed to help its friend. Even with warnings that its current state prevented the use of creation, it insisted on forcing the data. At the moment of impact, the protagonist's sword began to crack, unable to withstand the force of the collision. Wei struggled to defend against the demon's multiple attacks. He was exhausted and injured, but he refused to give in. Foggy was furious, wondering how the boy still had the strength to resist, frustrated with his limited attributes. With his strength almost completely suppressed, the boy felt his stamina reaching its limit and thought that if the analysis didn't finish soon, he'd be exhausted. The system indicated that a right hook was coming towards his head. Wei realized he needed to end the fight right then. Seeing the enemy's fist approaching, the young man focused his gaze, preparing to react. The creature missed the punch and tried to use its tail like a blade. The blow hit the ground with force, kicking up dust and debris. Lying on the ground, the protagonist felt the pain of the impact, gritting his teeth as he tried to recover. The demon declared that the fight was over and prepared for a heavy stomp right on Wei's head. Desperate, the boy tried to force his body to move, screaming in his thoughts for his limbs to obey. A large energy explosion occurred as the monster's foot hit the ground. It seems something stopped it from hitting the target dead on. The fight isn't over yet. At the very last millisecond, our protagonist manages to roll to the side, narrowly dodging the attack that would have surely sent him back to the lobby. Foggy gets annoyed when he realizes his foot is stuck in the ground, wondering why on earth he can't get loose. Lam Bao warns that he can't hold the enemy for much longer and that in just seconds, the creature would break free. Thanking his friend, Wei says that's more than enough. His speed ability is reactivated, and he charges in. With a war cry, the boy puts all his determination into the attack, running towards the demon with what's left of his sword. He decides to bet everything on this final blow, while the enemy glares at him with a look of pure hatred. However, upon hitting the target, his blade shatters into 1,000 pieces. The weapon wasn't strong enough to pierce the huge monster's defense. Completely shocked, the protagonist wonders how that's possible. His last resort failed unexpectedly. A demonic hand covered in dark energy lunges forward, and the monster prepares to finish off the defenseless boy. The creature's hand simply goes right through our protagonist's chest, and a red liquid starts to pour from the severe wound. With his eyes wide in shock, Wei Yi spits up some of that red stuff, unable to believe what just happened. Watching the terrible scene, the little robot screams desperately, unable to do anything to help its friend. The demon lifts the boy's body into the air. The blow was precise and brutal. A sadistic smile appears on the creature's face, who is clearly enjoying the situation. Foggy starts to laugh loudly and mockingly, asking if the boy really thought he could defeat him. The creature boasts, saying that one day he will be the strongest in the world and that anyone who gets in its way will be taken out. Lanbao feels sad for its friend. The MC whispers an apology, nearly losing consciousness. Tears stream down the young man's face. He feels completely defeated and helpless. Clearly, the little robot isn't going to give up on its partner. Suddenly, a system notification appears on the screen, warning of data interference. The horn jerk has no idea what's going on. The system announces that Foggy's analysis has reached 100%. Full control over the character has been acquired, and his buffs have been removed. With its eyes glowing, Lanbao tells the creature to shut up, slamming the jerk to the ground. A system message confirms that the character Foggy has been silenced. Now this jerk is finally going to get what he deserves today. He's about to get his butt kicked like never before. Lanbao then connects to Wei Yi's internal system, and an alert says the boy's inner world is collapsing. Inside Wei Yi's system world, the little robot floats, surrounded by data and digital codes, like the Matrix. It realizes that all the data connected to its friend is breaking apart. The links for action, attributes, and life have been severed, which is terrible news. The little robot identifies the memory link and realizes that this connection is also about to be lost. Desperate, Lanbao shouts that this can't happen if the memory link is gone. Wei Yi will never return. As the only option, it grabs both ends of the link. The system displays failure messages, showing that the boy's chance of survival is 0. Even so, the robot refuses to give up. Knowing it's the only way, it places both ends of the link into itself. Lanbao promises that it will protect its friend at all costs and begins the character reconstruction process. This was definitely a great sacrifice. A scene changes to the barrier walls. Apparently, it's breaking apart. The demon who is captured is completely lost. The poor thing has no idea what's happening. It seems it's not just the barrier that's falling apart, but our dear Lan as well. The data world around him begins to shatter, breaking apart into small pieces of information. One last order from Lan is given the final command to be executed as fusion. Waking up very slowly, our MC begins to wonder how long he's been wandering around here. All the boy remembers is being finished off by Foggy, but now he just floats aimlessly in this strange place. He thought the afterlife would be an endless darkness, but it turned out to be a world of cherished memories. Suddenly, a nostalgic memory appears. He sees himself building robots with Lanbao when they were kids, during happier times. The image of his robot friend appears, showing that moment was truly one of pure happiness. The young man then wonders how Lanbao is doing now, hoping his friend managed to survive. Unfortunately, he couldn't become stronger. His thoughts are interrupted by something different. A large, yellowish fragment of data catches his attention. The MC realizes that this is a special memory fragment. Not knowing what memory is stored there, he reaches out his hand. As soon as his finger touches the fragment's surface, the fragment begins to react. A silly goose realizes he might have messed up, but what's the worst that can happen, right? He's already in the afterlife anyway. Next, he finds himself in a familiar park with a city in the background. The landscape shows a modern metropolis, a place he knows very well. Observing the people around, he understands that he's entered the memory of the city where he lived 10 years ago. But that's when, right below him, a bully runs past, complaining that the weirdo preferred to jump into the lake rather than hand over his belongings. The aggressor's friend asks what they should do, and the answer is simple: run like crazy, my friend, and don't stop running. As he watches the boys run away, the MC finally understands this is the memory of that traumatic day. Back then, he couldn't resist their threats and was forced to do something. But after all, where is his past self? Suddenly, he spots the terrible scene: the child version of Wei is drowning, struggling to breathe. The people on the shore get worried in awe, but you can already tell no one there is going to do anything, right? What's worse is there's a waterfall in the center of the lake. The real problem is that this waterfall, or fountain, has a ridiculously strong current. Without a second thought, the ghost version of the MC jumps into the water, desperately trying to reach his child self. But you know how it is, right? It's all a memory. The MC is the one who keeps getting carried away and forgetting that. A feeling of helplessness takes over our boy. But what can you do? Suddenly, a familiar voice catches his attention. He turns in surprise, recognizing the sound immediately. It's our little robot who runs past the crowd and jumps into the water. The robot yells for Wei Yi to hang on. With determination, Lanbao declares that it would never let anything happen to its friend. The boy realizes he almost forgot that his faithful companion was always by his side. The little robot swims towards the sinking boy, yelling for Wei Yi to take its hand. Underwater, the little one begins to sink slowly. Lanbao realizes that time is running out and it needs to act fast. Reaching out its hand, it apologizes to its parents. Unfortunately, it's going to have to break a promise. Activating its analysis ability, it scans the area and locates Wei Yi's exact position. Our protagonist recognizes the ability used in the battle against Foggy and realizes that Lanbao needs to stop the waterfall first. Using its power, it creates an iron block in the air. The robot slams the iron bar into the waterfall. With that hit, the mechanical waterfall stops working instantly. With the current stopped, our dude Land dives deep to rescue his friend. Using the disassemble ability, it creates a bubble around the boy. With the boy safe inside the bubble, it starts to rise back to the surface. As soon as it surfaces, Lan yells for help, especially for someone who knows first aid. Lucky for them, there was a guard nearby. The question is, does he know first aid? The guard checks his breathing and pulse. Thank goodness, everything was normal. The boy remembers that his mind was fuzzy at the time, but even so, he never let go of the amulet he was holding in his hand. In an adult's arms, Lo Wei-yi says that no one will take his amulet. Lan understands and even comments that anything related to family is priceless. Family ties are irreplaceable, no matter the time or space. The MC feels happy to revisit these memories, but he knows it's time to go, right? Who knows, he might accidentally get trapped in them and become a ghost. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, asking if he's leaving already. He sees the robot dude from that memory looking directly at him. Shocked, Wei-yi asks if Lanbao can see him, not believing his friend can perceive him in his memory form. The robot says yes, but warns that the connection is temporary and won't last long. Lanbao explains that everything happened very quickly and that this is its last chance to say something important to Wei-yi. Our MC understands that this is because he was taken out, and so he tells his friend to say what he needs to. The little machine asks how much Wei-yi knows about his parents. He replies that they passed in an accident when he was little and that everything he knows came from his grandfather, who told him they were software developers. Too bad that's not true. Lanbao drops the bombshell Wei-yi's parents weren't just programmers, they were the creators of the creation and Lanbao systems. It comments that his grandpa told him the 4 dummies version, saying the boy's parents weren't just normal programmers. MC gets that bug minus out look, unable to believe what he just heard. Lan says that the creation system became too powerful, like a Skynet that got out of control. Lan knows the burden it carries, but only after seeing that vision of the future with Wei did Lanbao understand its true mission in this world. The little robot then presents its information core, which is like a thumb drive with all the ability tutorials and memory backups. Now, all this responsibility is passed on to Wei-yi. However, he needs to be wary of the creation system and its minions when using this power. Our hero realizes that this talk is sounding a lot like a season finale farewell and asks what's really going on outside. Suddenly, a system message appears in front of him. The fusion is complete, and the host's awakening is being initiated. An intense blue light envelops Wei-yi's body, and the young man is surprised to feel this strange energy. Lanbao reassures him, saying the fusion was already underway and that the system will take him where he needs to go. Desperate, Wei-yi questions how the system will do that, afraid his friend will disappear forever. The little robot assures him that as long as Wei-yi remembers it, it will never truly be gone. It's like a quest to collect the Dragon Balls. When all the world fragments are gathered, they will meet again. With the final wave, Lanbao says goodbye to its friend. Yeah, guys, I'm seriously thinking about crying. Back in reality, our protagonist wakes up with a start. Looking around, he recognizes the familiar surroundings and finds himself inside his adventure team's tent. He wonders if he's really alive because all of that felt too real to be just a dream. Touching his chest, he notices something incredible. The fatal wound Foggy inflicted has simply vanished, as if it never existed. Another system message appears before his eyes. The LBO system is now running. At that moment, the young man opens the tent and comes face to face with his companions, who are frozen, unable to believe that Wei-yi is awake. Inside his mind, the MC is startled by the system sounds echoing in his thoughts. A blue screen, like an RPG menu, appears before him, full of information, showing that various interfaces and abilities have been connected to his body. Shocked, the young man realizes what happened. Lanbao really did transfer the entire system to him before it left. The system continues to load new statuses and special abilities, including a demonic power and a lock information vault. A window with his attributes pops up, showing he received a heck of an upgrade: strength 70 and speed 60-4. The kid is tuned up. Clearly, this scene is dripping with irony. On top of that, he got the passive skill Demonic Body, which gives a +20 bonus to all attributes. The weirdest part is that not only is the system there, but even Foggy's abilities were copied over to him. With a thoughtful look, he starts to understand the situation and finally knows how he managed to survive the last confrontation. Suddenly, a notification from LBO appears, informing him that the access denied ability has blocked 10 suspicious messages that tried to invade. Realizing his friend's name was no longer Lanbao but LBO, the boy tried to call out to him but got no response. With a determined look, he understood that his only clue now was the world fragments. At that, a small hologram of Lanbao appeared on his shoulder, and the boy promised to gather the fragments as quickly as possible so they could meet again. Then, the system asked if he wished to activate the analysis of all things, which had been inactive until that moment. Immediately, several critical error messages popped up, informing him that multiple system functions were restricted and that he needed to activate the analysis. With a smirk that screamed "Daddy's home," Wei Yi said he could start after all. It was a good time to test out the new abilities. Right after the LBO system obeyed the command, and the self- activation of analysis of all things was initiated. A grid of light took over everything around him, looking like a C- vice canner. The scan spread throughout the entire camp, analyzing every single corner. With that, the system began to identify all the elements of nature, like moss, roots, and even the mud. Next, the analysis moved on to man-made objects, identifying bags, synthetic cloths, and other equipment. With his eyes glowing blue, the boy was over the moon. He had seen this ability before, but now it was way more powerful, like a legendary weapon upgrade. The coolest part is that the system not only scans but also gives him XP. Every identified item levels him up super fast, getting him to F- for in seconds. The kid was basically running an automatic XP farm, almost like some Minecraft pro with an insane setup. Before, the kid couldn't even level up, so he promised our boy Lan that he would value this second chance, like a player who finally unlocks new game mode. From outside, a voice asked about a noise coming from the tent and said they were going to check it out, totally killing the level up vibe. The protagonist noticed someone approaching and became alert. But what a relief. The person who showed up was Yuju, happy as can be to see his friend awake. The little system quickly identified him as a 17-year-old human. With that, Wei felt more relieved to see a familiar face, almost like finding a friendly NPC after a long quest. Suddenly, a new notification appeared, informing him that additional data had been detected and that a deep scan was being initiated, like an unexpected update download. Juju's status panel appeared, showing his attributes strength 30-6 and resistance 150-6. Wei was surprised to see the panel. Meanwhile, Juju told him to ignore his negativity. But what negativity was this dude talking about? So the boy asked if his friend was seeing anything around. At that, Juju got spooked by the question and even told him to knock it off, looking like he was seeing ghosts, Scooby-Doo style. With an awkward smile, Wei apologized for the scare but confirmed that other people couldn't see the system's readouts, which was a major race up his sleeve. Juju then came closer and pulled an object belonging to Wei Yi from his pocket. Our guy felt sad seeing his broken amulet. His friend explained that the object was already like that when they found him, looking like a shattered legendary item. With a sad expression, Juju said he knew how important it was and that he tried to fix it but didn't have the skill for it, like a blacksmith without the right tools. Wei Yi thanked his companion for his kindness, stating that it was no problem that the amulet was broken, as he now had a much greater power. With a determined look, he declared that he couldn't cling to the past anymore. Now, he had a greater purpose, like Goku always striving to go beyond. Relieved, Juju smiled and said he worried for nothing, happy to see that his friend was back to his old self, ready for new adventures. Excited, he said he was going to tell the captain that Wei Yi was awake. The protagonist asked for a moment to get his things together before heading out. Alone in the tent, the protagonist held his broken amulet, needing answers about what happened in the ruins, like a detective piecing together a puzzle. Suddenly, something caught his attention, and he looked to the side with a confused expression, like someone finding an unexpected Easter egg. The analysis system identified a turtle-shaped object as a rifle. Wei Yi wondered if the system had bugged out like when a game freezes. And then came the surprise notification popped up correcting the analysis to small turtle. RMC's jaw dropped when he realized he could edit the results, like a system admin. Outside the tent, the team was discussing what to do. Some wanted to continue exploring, but others thought it was safer to head back to the guild, in true group decision RPG fashion. As soon as Wei Yi stepped out of his tent, Juju spotted him and called him over to join the discussion. The team captain greeted him with visible relief, asking how the rookie's recovery was going, like a good team leader. The white haired guy assured them he had recovered well and that there was no problem. The leader then explained they were readjusting their plans like a battle strategy. Looking closely, the protagonist noticed that everyone was injured and wondered what happened to his companions, like a medic assessing the situation. The captain began to explain that they encountered D-ranked birds and that they all barely managed to escape, ending up with several injuries, as if they had faced a tough boss. The group got scattered and was under constant attack, thinking it was the end, until a roar scared the birds away, like a dragon's roar scaring off smaller monsters. One of the adventurers continued, saying that he and two others followed the sound and found Maki-head's body in an unconscious Wei Yi in a corner, as if they had found treasure in the corpse. In his thoughts, the young man understood what happened. Foggy took care of Maki-had, and Lambao probably left him there to be found, like an unexpected gift. The group's leader turned to him with a serious look, asking what exactly he found in there in a spill it all, don't hide anything kind of way. With a firm expression, Wei Yi decided it was time to talk and said he would tell them everything he witnessed, as if giving crucial testimony. The story began with a shocking revelation. He told them that the magic crystal had transformed into a humanoid demon, like an anime transformation. Wei Yi explained that the creature was too powerful for the other three, but since he didn't touch the crystal, he managed to escape, like a stealthy ninja. One of the team members found the story hard to believe, but soon admitted that it was totally like Maki had to do something crazy like that for a crystal, like a cliché villain. The captain analyzed the information with concern, thinking that a demon like that would be B- rank or even A- rank, and the worst part was not knowing where it was, like a global security threat. The boy said he lost consciousness due to his injuries, thinking he should omit any information about Lambao to keep it a secret. To ensure everyone's safety, the leader made a decision they would return to Aid City and report everything to the Adventurers Guild, like a strategic retreat. Juju approached Wei Yi so they could pack up, lamenting that they wouldn't have time to collect more crystals, like the friends who miss out on loot. Suddenly, a crucial memory came back to the protagonist. He remembered something important and grew worried, like someone forgetting an important appointment. Turning to his companion, he asked what today's day was, and Juju was confused by the question, like, huh? Juju counted on his fingers and explained that Wei Yi had been unconscious for 3 days and that today was already September 15th, delivering the news like a walking calendar. With wide eyes, the MC realized the gravity of the situation. He may have defeated a demon, but now he faced a worse enemy, the rent deadline. Without a second thought, the white haired guy started running, and his friend yelled, asking where he was going in such a hurry, like a cartoon character. The young man turned and called out for Senior Lin Xian. The group's captain looked at him and asked what had happened. Desperate, Wei Yi announced that he wasn't going to H City and that he needed to get back to Star Machinery City immediately, like a hero on an urgent mission. As night began to fall, the forest was bathed in an orange and golden light, looking like a fantasy movie set. The two friends ran down a narrow path in the forest, needing to hurry to reach their destination, like athletes in a race against time. Picking up the pace, they moved at high speed, driven by the urgency of the situation, like Sonic and Tails. As they ran side by side, Wei Yi asked why Juju came along. His friend replied that he was worried and that more people meant more help, like a good teammate. With a smile, the protagonist thanked his companion, promising to protect him along the way, like a knight of the zodiac. In his thoughts, the young man remembered the reason for his rush. He had borrowed magic crystals, and the debt was large. If the debt wasn't paid, his grandfather and his sister Xiao Xiao would be kicked out of the city and could even be attacked by monsters, like a real minus life game over. Suddenly, a system notification popped into his mind. The analysis ability identified a Fang Wolf, and he gained 10 XP, like a danger warning and a bonus. The boy's eye widened for an instant, sensing the presence of a dangerous creature nearby, like an enemy radar. Quickly, he stopped his friend with his arm, warning that there were monsters nearby and they needed to be careful, like an experienced hero. His eyes glowed with an intense blue light, and the guy almost had a heart attack at the number of enemies his ability detected. It seems he aggroed the entire map, like in an MMORPG. An analysis grid expanded around them, and the scan confirmed the obvious: the two were completely surrounded. This is bad. The system's interface showed his updated attributes: strength 70 and speed 60-4. The kid was leveling up in real minus time, like an XP hack. The analysis revealed the location of several Li-3 and D- for rank Fang wolves, hidden throughout the forest in full predator mode. Wielding his sword, Wei Yi warned that there were more than 20 wolves there. Behind him, Juju was confused, unable to see anything, like the friend who can't see the danger. Suddenly, the wolves emerged from the darkness, and the system displayed their attributes. Only then could Juju see them, as if night vision had been activated. His friend asked what they should do, and Wei Yi explained that Fang wolves were like the Terminator. They never stopped chasing their prey. Running wasn't an option. Juju decided they needed to eliminate all the monsters. He worried about Wei Yi's injuries, who assured him he was at 100%, like a fighter who doesn't back down. Relieved by the answer, his companion prepared for the fight and launched himself at the pack with a shield in hand, Captain America style. With a swift move, Juju hit one of the wolves with a strong and precise blow, like a hammer strike. With a determined look, he yelled that he was going to teach those beasts a lesson, super confident at the start of the fight, like an action movie protagonist. Meanwhile, the system reminded Wei Yi of his demonic body ability, which gave a plus 20 bonus to all base attributes, like an instant power -up. Even with his broken weapon, our protagonist felt confident. With the bonuses from demonic body, he believed he could handle the wolves, like an invincible boss. A system notification popped up out of nowhere by identifying a simple blade of grass. He gained XP and ranked up to E-1. Even nature was helping, like a bug that gives unlimited XP. I will plunge to attack him, but the guy easily defeated it with a single strike from his broken sword, as if it were a weak game enemy. Surprised by his own strength, he wondered how he managed that in a single blow, as the result of the attacks splattered on his face, like a fatality. Excited, the boy told Juju that he had reached T-1 rank, and the system interface began to update his stats, like a new level unlock. His friend celebrated the achievement, happy that he had overcome the difficulty of leveling up, saying that no one stays unlucky forever, like an enthusiastic cheerleader. With a smile, Juju encouraged him to feel the difference, stating that fighting at E- rank was on another level compared to F- rank, like a veteran advising a newbie. System Meng gave a little lesson on how growth worked. Each awaken had 6 base attributes and a total of 200 initial points, like a game tutorial. With each level, you gain 12 bonus points to distribute. After leveling up 10 times, you could advance to the next rank, like a progression system. Each rank advancement added another 200 base attribute points, creating a massive power jump, like a superhero gaining new powers. The interface showed Wei Yi's attributes at F-10 rank. He had accumulated 108 bonus points, like a player with a lot of points to spend. Next, his new E-1 rank stats were displayed. All his attributes had doubled, and the demonic body bonuses were synchronized like a legendary buff. Attacking another wolf, the protagonist noticed something incredible. Demonic body also added points to his base attributes, giving him a 120-point advantage over others. How broken is that? Our MC has that look of someone who's turned the tables. Who would have thought that the noob from before was suddenly packing the power of a big shot, almost a D- rank. Meanwhile, his buddy Juju is in full tank mode, surrounded by a crowd of wolves. He yells that there are way more than 20 here. Things are looking ugly. Our little MC agrees, realizing that this wolf pack is a weird vibe, like when quest mobs start acting smart. With their teeth bared and eyes glowing like headlights, the beasts get ready to turn our heroes into a snack. And wouldn't you know it, the monsters have a high IQ. They start moving in a super coordinated way, attacking in turns like a professional esports team. Our Targaryen from another mother figures out their strategy right away. They're trying to wear the two of them down slowly to go in for the final pounce later. Out of absolutely nowhere, a howl that would give you goosebumps echoes through the forest. High up on a rock, a mysterious shadow appears, making everyone stop and look. With his eyes wider than a shocked anime character's, Wei Yi's jaw drops at the creature that just showed up. Bathed in the moonlight, a giant white wolf with multiple tails reveals itself in full Kurama from Naruto style. You can already tell the stage boss has a right to play. The little system screen even flashes, identifying the Silver Fang Wolf King and giving a measly 10 XP. But right after, a REDANGER alert pops up on the screen. In pure desperation, Wei Yi yells for his friend to book it, warning him that this isn't just any mob. It's the final boss of the dungeon. The giant wolf doesn't waste any time and leaps from the rock, diving like a missile towards the two kids who are already in run for your life mode. The beast's landing is worthy of a Michael Bay movie, with an impact that kicks up dust and rocks everywhere, making the ground shake. Even with the danger at max level, Wei Yi doesn't flinch. He prepares for combat, holding his broken sword with that look of someone who's going to charge in, no matter what. Seeing the scene, the other little wolves stop attacking immediately, like minions waiting for the boss's order. Respect is everything, right? The entire pack takes a few steps back, forming a circle of spectators while their leader gets ready for the show. The tension is in the air. The system scans and shows the boss's stats: Wolf King, D-10 rank, with a strength of 214 and speed of 250. Basically, the beast is strong and crazy fast. The system manual even explains that a chief is like the alpha of the species, the strongest of them all, with stats and skills that are on another level. Annoyed with his hardcore bad luck, the kid complains, wondering if he has a magnet for absurdly strong monsters. The life of an MC ain't easy, my friend. Juju yells that the path ahead is blocked by the Wolf Fang Club, suggesting they try to bail through another route. Staring down the big wolf, Wei Yi comes to that pro-gamer conclusion: the only chance to beat this level is to deal with the boss, either by sending him to the great beyond or at least troughing him up pretty bad. With no time to think, he gives the command open at review panel, and the system obeys instantly. He figures that strength and speed are essential for this fight and spends all his skill points on those two attributes, in full all-in style. The boy then turns to his friend and drops the classic line, "You handle the minions, I'll take the boss," dividing the tasks like a true duo. With a little smirk, he assures him that he's just going to give the monstrous Karen charges at the enemy, full of swagger. The Wolf King exhales through its nose, looking at the kid with a seriously, "Is that all you've got?" expression. The beast's disdain is palpable. In the blink of an eye, the creature disappears and reappears in front of him, moving at an insane speed. Who knew something this big could be so agile? The little system screen flashes enemy using bite skill. Wei Yi immediately realizes this is the opening he's been waiting for. The big wolf dives down, its sharp fangs gleaming, aiming straight for our protagonist's neck. Using his newly boosted agility, the kid slides on the ground like a soccer player and dodges the fatal bite by a hair's breadth. Activating the haste skill, he aims straight for the beast's belly, that classic weak spot on every video game boss that glows red. After taking the hit, the Wolf King starts to glow with a silver energy, and the system announces Silver Light, ability activated. Looks like the boss got angry. A blinding light explodes from the monster's body, like a real Midas-life flashbang. In the background, Juju desperately screams his friend's name. With his vision completely white, the young man realizes he can't see a thing in front of him and understands that the boss's skills are no joke. His system even detects the blindness status and tries to analyze the skill, but fails miserably. Then, the danger alert flashes again. Even blind, he feels a massive energy building up, and out of nowhere, the blade of light materializes right in his face, ready to slice him up. The attack is launched with absurd force, and the energy blade cuts through everything in its path like butter. The power of the blow is so intense that it leaves a trail of destruction, with several trees cut in half as if they were toothpicks. Lying on the ground, the protagonist, who managed to dodge by a miracle, is dumbfounded by the insane power of that attack. The surrounding trees were sliced with surgical precision, which makes our young adventurer's heart pound. He realizes that was a cut of pure elemental power. If he hadn't dodged, he would have become firewood along with the trees. The silver light buff is still active on the Wolf King, and the system beeps, warning that another wave of energy is forming to his right. The MC realizes the monster is even buffed with elemental power and laments that he can't charge in with his sword that's more like a shard of glass. Another system notification attempting to learn the elemental principles of the ability FAILED. Looks like it won't be that easy. Again, the system tries to understand the structure of silver light, and once more the analysis fails. This thing is complicated. Then a light bulb goes off in our platinum Midas-haired hero's head if the system is trying to analyze the skill. Couldn't it? Like copy and paste it? He remembers that earlier his thoughts helped the system. If this little help works for learning techniques, the fight could completely turn in his favor. With the look of someone about to test a game bug, he decides he needs to confirm his theory and tells the system to capture the elemental changes in real Midas time. The interface confirms command successfully received. The process of copying the classmate's homework is about to begin. In the kid's mind, it's as if various gears and circuits start spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, preparing this new function. The interface flashes again, confirming real Midas time capture of elemental changes activated. Now things are getting serious. The system begins to learn the principles of the wolf skill. Upon detecting the electric element, an attack trajectory starts to be drawn in his mind. Meanwhile, in the background, Juju is confused. The wolves that were surrounding him suddenly started backing away for no apparent reason. The Wolf King launches another powerful attack, and his system takes the opportunity to collect more data, deepening the analysis. It's like learning by getting beat up. With his eyes glowing, the boy finally figures out how the ability works, and the system loads the prerequisites for him to learn Silver Light. With no time to celebrate, the boss attacks again, firing multiple energy blades in his direction like a machine gun. Startled, our little MC kneels, having no idea how he's going to dodge a shower of projectiles like that. Out of nowhere, Juju appears in front of him like a guardian angel, activating his star shield to tank the attack. That's what friends are for. His buddy asks if Wei is okay, explaining that he saw the minions retreat and figured the boss was about to use its special. The kid apologizes for worrying him and explains that he was getting close to try and understand the monster's skill, a scientist in the midst of chaos. The star shield starts to crack all over under the pressure of the blow, and Juju wonders what kind of absurd attack this is to cause so much damage. The system details the skill the shield can take damage based on stamina, but if it breaks, the user gets a weakened debuff for 3 minutes. It's a risky bet. Desperate, Juju says that if they stay there, they're both gonna get wiped, and insists for Wei to stick to the original plan and bail. As the big wolf advances, his friend yells that he'll hold the beast off as long as he can and tells the protagonist to bolt eastward, a moment of heroic sacrifice. With a serious look, Wei says he knows his buddy is offering to stay behind just because he's a lower level. He explains that with the shield's debuff, it'll be much harder for Juju to escape later, and that he would regret it forever if he left his friend hanging. Clenching his fist, he gives that classic power Midas of Midas friendship speech, declaring that they're not totally screwed and that if they came together, they're leaving alive together. Out of nowhere, the MC's sword glows with blue energy, and the system announces analysis complete. Silver Light, ability learned, its power minus uptime. His new status screen appears, showing the updated skill list universal analysis, haste, block, and the brand minus new Silver Light. A new tutorial screen pops up, explaining what elemental abilities are a great gift given to this world, which both the awakened monsters can have. Apparently, the elements are divided into 5 types, like Pokemon Starter's Star, Electric, Core, Cloud, and Flower. The tutorial also mentions that in the past, some scientists tried to understand how these abilities worked, but they failed and concluded it was impossible. But our MC's system is a beast. It informs him that it not only understood the configuration of the Silver Light's electric element, but also unlocked a skill star chart. With his sword glowing, the protagonist reveals that he managed to copy the technique using his system, and that this version is a pure elemental ability, even more top-tier. The description of Silver Light appears an electric element skill that manifests pure power, and best of all, its damage ignores most physical defense. It's almost true damage. Juju is completely shocked, his eyes almost popping out, and he screams that's the boss's ability. He's totally bugging out, wondering how his friend managed to learn a skill in the middle of a beatdown. And worse, it was the same ability as the monster that was trying to delete them from the game. Our platinum minus-haired hero decides it's better to play it off as luck and says the surrounding elements must have been compatible with him. It's a better excuse than admitting he's become the protagonist of an anime with a busted system. Even with this new skill, he knows the level difference is still huge and that he'll need his system's help to target the enemy's weak points. The Wolf King isn't interested in talking and charges full minus speed at Juju's shield, determined to end this nonsense once and for all. With a devastating impact, the barrier shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the blow sends our friend flying through the air with absurd force. Wei rushes to catch his friend as the system announces that the shield is gone. Shuju now has severe injury and weakened statuses. Lying in his buddy's arms, the guy starts coughing up that famous rid stuff, showing that the damage was really bad. The system informs that the weakened debuff cuts it rebutes by 60%. Shuju tries to say something, but his friend tells him to relax and leave the rest to him. With a heavy stomp that makes the ground tremble, the Wolf King readies itself again, prepared to launch another special attack. The monster lets out a deafening roar, and its body becomes covered in blue electricity as it glares at the protagonist with pure hatred in its eyes. Our hero stands in front of his friend to protect him, telling Shuju to try and get away, but his friend, even all busted up, asks him not to overdo it. The giant creature charges with its mouth open, and a wave of blue energy is fired towards our kid, like a Kamehameha. With a super-focused gaze, the protagonist's system enters future sight mode, calculating the exact time and angle of the attack. On a screen full of data, Matrix- style, the system analyzes the wolf's attacks, predicting the arrival of each projectile with millisecond precision. With a focused look, the boy understands the strategy, predict the time and angle of each blow to be able to react. This way, he can use less power to deflect the attack's trajectory. It's the only way to deal with the monster's brute force without spending all his mana. By making the energy projectiles hit each other, as if they were billiard balls, the kid manages to completely nullify the boss's attack. Now that's smart. The Wolf King charges through the dust, completely confused, not understanding how its strongest attack was so easily defended. Our protagonist isn't even worried, as he knows that using the dust as a smokescreen is useless. His system can predict the enemy's movements anyway, it's practically a cheat. The interface beeps again, warning of 2 more light blades coming his way, one with a 40-5- degree deviation and the other at 70. Sensing the danger, the young man stomps hard on the ground. He knows there's no way he can tank these attacks head-on. Pulling off another stylish slide, he passes under the energy blades and manages to escape the blow that would have sent him back to the lobby by a hair's breadth. With a look of astonishment, he looks up and sees the energy passing just over his head. That was a close one. Using the momentum from the slide, he pushes off the ground and immediately prepares for a quick counter-attack. The best defense is a good offense, right? Turning to the big monster in the middle of the smoke, he drops that classic protagonist line, "Now it's my turn." And just like that, with a quick and precise strike, he makes a scratch on the Wolf King's face, leaving a little cut to mark the moment. And over in the corner of the map, his friend Juju has that look of someone who just saw Pikachu evolve into a Charizard, completely bugged out. The guy can barely believe it, wondering if that's the same way he knew, or if his friend ate a super mushroom somewhere along the way. Just then, one of the wolf's energy blades comes at him, but our MC manages to block the attack, like a perfect parry at the last second. With a move worthy of a Jedi, he even deflects the monster's blow, sending the energy flying away. Panting, he realizes his mana bar is draining faster than a phone battery. Just a few attacks and he's almost out of energy, and the boss barely felt a tickle. To make matters worse, his mana recovery is at a beginner's level, while the monster seems infinite. Our adventurer understands that if this fight drags on, it's game over for him. He then wonders if it's not time to use that ace up his sleeve, the famous secret move. As if reading his mind, the system warns that an absurd amount of elements is gathering around the Wolf King. The creature then unleashes an energy that would make Frieza jealous, and the system immediately alerts that the danger is at maximum level, with no safe escape routes. With the look of someone about to go all out, the young man decides it's all or nothing and tells the system to activate the demon power. There's nowhere left to run. The interface confirms the command instantly, demon power ability successfully activated. And along with the power comes a not minus so minus friendly notification on the screen. The underworld has started to notice you. It's like when you mess with the wrong gang in GTA. Out of nowhere, a hellish headache hits him. A red energy surrounds him, and a giant eye, Sora Midas style, appears in the sky. His system warns him that the underworld is trying to copy and paste his mind, wanting to control his body and awaken his wildest side. Even with the pain, he fights against this mental control, yelling that he will never let a sinister force like this turn him into a puppet. A notification confirms that the process is over. He has officially entered the demonization state. His face changes instantly. His eyes glow a sinister yellow, and dark marks appear on his skin, in full Naruto with the QUBI's cocker style. He's gone beast mode. His stats appear on the screen, and what madness. Most of them dropped, but his elemental power went from 60 minus for 2 over 1400. What kind of busted buff is this? Facing the creature, he warns that the monster is about to taste defeat and that the battle will be decided with the wolf's own ability. The boy then charges at an absurd speed, firing a super minus powerful energy blade at the boss. The blow travels through the forest with devastating force, tearing up the ground and kicking up dust everywhere. The Wolf King faces the attack with wide eyes, unable to believe the absurd power coming its way. The attack hits the monster head minus on, and the creature's head is simply sent flying by the force of the impact. Flying through the air, the wolf's head soars through the forest. The force of the blow was so incredible, it would make Saitama envious. The Wolf King's body falls lifelessly to the ground. The system confirms the victory, and our protagonist levels up like crazy, getting several level ups. While his friend remains in a state of shock, the system informs him that Juju also gained enough XP to level up to E-10. The guy simply can't believe what he just saw. The boss was finished in a single blow, and an entire mountain was blown away. He wonders what the heck happened to way back in the ruins. Suddenly, the white minus-haired young man falls to his knees. A sinister read aura surrounds him as he screams in pain. His system detects that his mental state is bugged and forcibly deactivates the demon power to protect him. With his hand on his face, the boy thinks about the side effects, which were much stronger than he imagined. The power came with a hefty price. A bizarre notification appears, saying that the underworld was satisfied with the show and left a little mark on his hand, one that not even the system can analyze. Running towards him, his companion asks if he's okay. The white minus-haired boy seems to have already recovered. With a tired smile, he replies that everything's fine, he's just a little exhausted from using up so much elemental power, as if he'd used all his MP. Our protagonist looks at a holographic clock that reads 11 at night and tells his friend they need to hurry. Looking at the monster's body, he laments not having time to collect the loots, but the interface already detects the parts that can be extracted. With a determined look, Juju offers to stay and take care of collecting the materials. He explains that his dad owns a materials shop and that he knows his stuff. Besides, his weakness debuff is gone, and he's at full energy. Starting to work on the beast's body, he explains that a boss is like a walking treasure chest full of magic crystals and materials for top-tier weapons and equipment. The young man thinks that he never imagined Wei Yu would become so strong and that now, he won't even need his help to get back home anymore. Juju then says he's not working for free and that he wants his share of the Wolf King's meat, which is said to be delicious. Our protagonist just calls him a mooker. With a friendly nudge, he tells Wei Yi to get going, telling him not to worry and to leave everything to him. As our young adventurer walks through the forest, the narration says that now all that's left is to solve the most important matter of all. The scene cuts to a walled city at night, a place known as Starford City. Outside a building, a voice yells for someone to hurry up and pay what they owe, in classic movie minus landlord style. A brave little girl appears, defending her older brother and saying he will definitely be back today. Avery with a scar on his forehead shows a contract, yelling that they either pay up or they can get out. Pointing to a giant machine, the man says his boss worked his butt off to get that contraption and that renting it out was already a huge favor. The collector then taunts the girl, betting that her brother has already been taken out and calling him useless. In the background, an old man is passed out on the couch. Furious, the little girl runs up and kicks the guy in the shin, who yells in pain as if he stepped on a Lego. She points at him with a look of pure fury, warning that if he insults her brother again, he will regret it bitterly. With his face red with anger, the man calls her a brat, saying she's asking for big trouble. Out of nowhere, a voice yells that's enough, and the man and his gang are thrown aside. The little girl looks up and happily shouts her older brother's name. A hand holds an old pocket watch that reads exactly midnight. It had to be right on time, didn't it? Sitting in a chair, the group's boss, Giri Qi, president of the Bears Labor Guild and to be minus rank collector, gives the order for his henchmen to act. He explains that in his territory, not just anyone can use a magic crystal energy device. Basically, he owns this playground. With a threatening look, TEQI gives the ultimatum: either pay the full rent or get out of the city forever. The entire gang gathers with that movie minus bully posture, and the blonde boss tells them to choose their fate. The girl confronts them bravely, threatening to report them for harassment, but the collector just laughs, saying that in this city, they make the rules. The old man who was sleeping wakes up and grabs a bottle to drink, complaining that he can't get a minute of peace in this house. Getting up, he introduces himself as Wo Bang, a retired mechanical engineer, grumbling that young people these days are too impatient. The little girl is happy and calls him Grandpa. The scar-minus-faced man, however, scoffs at the old man, saying he can't even protect himself. With a super calm expression, the engineer says it's just rent money and asks if that's really what they want. Without even waiting for an answer, he presses a button on a small remote control in a now you're gonna see kind of way. Right after, a giant cylindrical object starts to move on the ceiling, and the entire building begins to shake. The collectors panic with the earthquake, and the scar-minus-faced man yells, wondering what kind of mess this is. Suddenly, the top part of the machine opens, revealing a giant robotic eye that starts to glow. The object reveals itself to be a huge robot like a Gundam. The scar-minus-faced man wonders what it is, while the Grandpa engineer just watches the scene. The collector starts laughing, relieved, saying the old man scared him for nothing, since the robot isn't even moving. He continues his mockery, saying that the creator Raya revoked control of all robots, so it was impossible for that thing to work. Another henchman agrees, saying that if the machine doesn't move, it's nothing more than an expensive pile of scrap metal. The group's boss, however, declares that he's keeping the robot. His subordinate is even surprised by the decision. The retired engineer recognizes the machine, explaining that JY- series robots were restricted military equipment, big minus league stuff. With a serious look, Grandpa Wobang makes a proposal. He offers the Y-0 series prototype to pay for a whole year's rent. His granddaughter gets desperate and asks him not to do it, saying that it's his life's work and they should wait for her brother. The grandfather explains that Wei Yi is always on time. If he's late, it means something went very wrong. Therefore, the decision was already made. The little girl gets angry, thinking that bearded guy is getting way too lucky, shamelessly taking her grandfather's robot. The gang leader, Zeqi, cuts off the conversation, stating that they got it all wrong but he never said the robot alone would be enough. A holographic interface begins to calculate the robot's value. The boss explains that despite the rare materials, the cost to recycle the scrap greatly decreased its value. Zeqi then points out that it's already past midnight and that for breaking the contract, they'll have to pay a penalty of 10 times the amount, and future rent will be doubled. Super fair negotiation, right? Not. The man informs them that even with the robot's value, they still owe 20 magic crystals. The old man is shocked, as this penalty wasn't in the contract. The boss approaches the engineer with an intimidating look and says he's informing them of the new terms now and that in this world, the weak have no right to complain. He gives them a 1-day deadline to get the payment, threatening that if they don't pay, they'll be invited to become Monster Chow. Zeqi then gives the order for his henchmen to grab the goods and get out of there. Immediately, the brutes start pulling on the steel cables, trying to drag the giant machine with all their might. The group struggles to move the heavy robot, while the gang leader just watches the scene with his arms crossed and a villainous look on his face. With his back turned, the old engineer apologizes to his creation, lamenting to his old friend and saying he had no other choice. One of the men complains about not making any profit and, upon seeing some electromagnetic components, thinks he can make some extra cash. Little Xiaoxia stops him with all her courage, yelling that this wasn't part of the deal. The man gets furious with the little girl's attitude and shoves her away, telling her not to stick her nose where it doesn't belong. With the push, the girl ends up falling to the ground, feeling the pain of the impact. Meanwhile, another henchman announces that this was the last steel cable, and the structure begins to give way. The giant robot starts to tip forward, about to fall exactly where the little girl is. Seeing the danger, the grandfather panics, desperately screaming his granddaughter's name, Xiaoxia. The girl looks up with her face frozen in fear, as the shadow of the giant machine completely covers her. At the last second, a blur passes by at an insane speed. The innate ability Rapid Speed has been activated. The machine stops moving abruptly in mid-air, just inches from crushing the girl. Wei Yi appears on the scene, holding the robot with one hand and protecting his sister with the other. The girl, super relieved, calls out his name. With a worried look, he apologizes for being late and asks Xiao if her scrape hurts. Wiping away her tears, the little warrior says it doesn't hurt at all and even apologizes for not being able to protect the base. Our MC comforts her, saying she did an awesome job and that now she can let the big boss here handle the rest. Zeqi, the gang leader, watches everything with that classic movie villain smirk, commenting that the kid's arrival only made things easier. His goons immediately surround the kid with unfriendly glares, calling him F-rank ration, telling him to hand over the magic crystals to pay the debt. With a look that says he's about to go Super Saiyan, our little MC faces off against the big guys while his little sister watches, already biting her nails with worry. The goon with the scar is even startled by the young man's gaze, wondering how he got intimidated by a brat. Wei Yi then asks his sister to step back a bit because things are about to get heated, and the girl tells him to be careful. Suddenly, a system interface pops up in front of the boy. The universal analysis skill has been activated, scanner mode on. Several holographic screens appear, showing the goons' stats, most of whom are just T-rank adventurers, basically the stage's minions. With his eyes glowing blue, the protagonist thinks with disdain that he hates people who act tough just because they have a little power to intimidate the weaker ones. Holding a small cloth bag, the young man says that the magic crystals they want so badly are all inside. But in his thoughts, he swears that since they messed with his family, this isn't going to end so simply. The man grabs the bag with a mocking smile, saying that trash belongs in its place. With a malicious look, the goon gets ready to leave, all satisfied for having gotten what he wanted. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist vanishes and reappears, landing a powerful punch right in the man's gut. The impact is so strong it surely gave the goon's brain a blue screen of death. The hit was dead on and sent his system for a reboot. Without even giving the enemy time to breathe, Wei Yi already prepares another attack, saying this kick is a little gift for Xiaoxia. His foot then lands squarely on the guy's face with full force, and a good amount of ketchup splatters in the air in true 90 seconds action movie style. With enviable agility, the protagonist steps on the fallen goon's back, using the poor guy's body like a stepping stone. One of the other guys panics, yelling that the kid is messing with them and telling everyone to jump him. Moving like a blur, the young man tells them to worry about themselves first. The goons are dumbfounded by his speed. In an instant, he hits all the gang members, one by one, with that cold, calculating look of someone who has already planned every move. With a serious expression, Wei Yi observes the damage he's done as one of the men already falls to the ground, completely knocked out. The group leader is utterly shocked, wondering how that brat who was the weakest F- rank in the city turned into such a monster. ZQI tells Pang Ming they've wasted enough time, and the brute replies that he'll take care of the situation quickly. Surrounded by a raid aura, the big guy tells the kid not to get cocky just because he beat up some weaklings and says he's going to show him what real power is. The system's analysis immediately scans Pang Ming. The guy is a D-8 rank, with the stamina of a marathon runner and the heavy core armor ability, basically. Without wasting time, the enemy charges with impressive speed, even leaving a small crater in the ground from the push off. But the big guy's fist is stopped by our protagonist's foot. The man can't believe his attack was blocked so easily. Wei then kicks him with full force, telling him not to make a mess in his house and sending him for a little stroll outside. Pang Ming's body crashes through the wall, as if it were made of paper and lands outside the building, kicking up a giant cloud of dust. From inside, Jiao and her grandpa turn into the cheering squad, and the little girl shouts for her brother, giving him a "you got this." The boss CEQ watches everything with a serious expression, surprised by the display of power he just witnessed. Our protagonist tries to land a punch, but the enemy manages to catch his fist. The wall behind them already looks like Swiss cheese. Pang Ming activates his raid energy armor, commenting that the kid's speed isn't bad, but his strength is pathetic. A blue aura surrounds the protagonist as the system activates silver light. He warns the enemy not to jump to conclusions. With his face full of determination, Wei talks about old and new beef, declaring that today is the day of reckoning. ZQ again tells Pang Ming they've wasted enough time, and the muscular man says he'll end it once and for all. Coming from a past of oppression, the boy prepares for another challenge, remembering all the hardships he's been through. Now to finally break free, he needs a new achievement, building his energy weapon with pure determination. Pang Ming scoffs at the young man's energy sword, calling it broken and finding it ridiculous that this is his strongest move. The boss CEQ thinks to himself, feeling his danger intuition go off. He knows that Pang Ming shouldn't have been thrown so easily. Xiaoxi and her grandfather watch the fight with concern. The girl shouts to her brother, saying they can run if things get ugly. With his red aura glowing, Pang Ming explains that his defense is top -tier and warns that the young man will get stunned if he tries a frontal attack. A system screen details the heavy core armor ability. It doubles defense but reduces speed by 90% and even stuns the first attacker for 3 seconds. Our protagonist reveals his silver light sword and with a little smile, says he never intended to fight up close. Furious, the enemy yells, wondering why the kid isn't playing by the rules, desperate about the change in tactics. In a swift move, the young man launches a blue energy slash from a distance, which flies straight towards the brute. The muscular man crosses his arms to defend himself, screaming in anger as the attack hits him head on. He feels immense pain and wonders why his armor didn't work, trying to convince himself that the boy can't use such a strong attack many times. But another wave of blue energy hits him with even more force, and Pang Ming is shocked that the protagonist still has so much power in the tank. Several energy slashes hit the man's body in succession, and he is thrown back by the force of the multiple impacts. Meanwhile, the system begins to analyze the heavy core armor, trying to decipher the secrets of the enemy's ability. With a focused look, the protagonist realizes the system is working as he expected, managing to analyze and even learn other skills. His system initiates a deeper analysis of the ability, using the continuous attacks to track the element's trajectories. A new view of the nuclear element star map trajectory is obtained, revealing the ability's structure in detail. With a deeper understanding, the system begins to load the ability's conditions, and the message ability learn heavy core armor appears on the screen. Pang Ming gets annoyed that his ability has no effect. He decativates it and decides to go for a hand to hand fight. The brute charges forward, yelling that the boy is done for if he gets close, and our protagonist sees the perfect moment to test a new move. Using silver light, the guy compresses elemental power on the weapon's surface, ensuring the next blow will be devastating. The goon is completely shocked by what he's seen, unable to believe the amount of power coming his way. Suddenly, a beam of green energy cuts through the air, and a powerful voice yells for it to stop. UI appears out of nowhere and grabs the kid's weapon with his hand, stopping the attack as if it were nothing, and declares that the nonsense ends here. The boss's hand firmly grips the protagonist's blade, and blue energy sparks around the weapon. He thinks that, as he suspected, it was elemental damage with overwhelming lightning power, and wonders when the boy got these abilities. The boss then orders Pang Ming to back down, saying he's no match. The goon even tries to insist, but his leader tells him not to make him repeat the order. Our protagonist is surprised by the man's speed, thinking his movement was impossible to read, way too fast. Even with his universal analysis, the system can only capture fragments of the opponent's movements. The analysis is applied to ZEQI, instantly activating his dangerous intuition. The boss then asks if the boy is trying to be nosy. His screen shows UI stats a B-1 rank assassin, with several abilities, including one that warns him of unfavorable factors. Jiri asks what the young man saw, and the boy gets scared as the enemy's stats are on a level far beyond his current capabilities. Seeing the danger, the grandfather pulls Xiaoxia back, already preparing to protect his granddaughter at all costs. In this case, there's only one option left for our young man. The system warns him that his demonic power state is unstable. With a furious look, the guy says that if they want to hurt his family, they'll have to go through his dead body first. The protagonist's sword changes completely, putting the boss on alert. His intuition is filled with a terror he hasn't felt in a long time, and he wonders if he could actually lose. At the last moment, a voice yells for them to wait, breaking all the tension that was building up in the place. This mysterious voice tells EQI to stay where he is, and everyone in the yard looks back surprised. A dog appears, running with a giant red crystal in its mouth, and a guy with a backpack is right behind it, yelling for the doggy to give the item back. The young man finally catches up to the animal, but the crystal slips and slides across the ground, stopping right at the feet of our protagonist and the gang leader. With a surprised look, EQI stares at the item on the ground, seeming to recognize that shiny red crystal. Our protagonist shouts the newcomer's name Juju, and his little sister recognizes him too, pointing at him, all happy. The guy is thankful his friend made it out of the forest safe and sound, and Juju complains he would have gotten there sooner if his dog hadn't stolen the crystal. Confused, the newcomer looks around and wonders where the item went. Our MC just looks away, knowing very well where it is. Holding the magic crystal in his hand, GEQI asks the boy where he got it, seeming very interested in the object. Holding the magic crystal in his hand, GEQI asks the boy where he got it, seeming very interested in the object. Juju says his friend dropped the item and explains that intermediate minus level crystals come from bosses and need to be returned. Our protagonist reveals that the stone came from a boss called the Silverfang Wolf King and says they were ambushed on the way, which is why the rent was late. ZEQ is incredulous at the story, and his goon yells that it's impossible for the two of them to have hunted such a strong monster alone. The boss thinks his intuition was right about the boy being powerful and that if they fought, it could interfere with his important plan. Suddenly, the man throws a contract to the young man, warning him that he was lucky to still be alive after all this mess. With the scroll in hand, the group leader says the crystal will cover 3 months of rent. A little screen explains that this is a magic contract. ZEQI then orders his goons to withdraw, and his subordinate tasks if they're already heading back to base. Meanwhile, the grandfather worries about the giant robot, wondering if they'll be able to carry something that big. Our protagonist reads the document and sees no problem, but still, he wonders what the enemy's real plan is. Little Xiaoxiao cups her hands around her mouth to shout louder and tells the brute to get lost, calling him a gorilla. The boss and his goon look back angrily, and GEQI calls the little girl a brat, clearly annoyed by the insult. As he walks away, he thinks that he'll leave the boy alone for now, but that once his plan is complete, he'll have plenty of chances to settle the score with the young man. Seeing the group finally leave, the guy is relieved to have avoided losing control of his demonic power. His little sister runs up to him, all excited, and asks when her brother got so strong. The protagonist replies that maybe it was just luck and, in his thoughts, hopes his system is ready for the next level up. His buddy Juju throws the loots from the hunt on the ground like a raid treasure split, and says the MC can have everything because all he's interested in is the steak. All excited, he holds up the rarest item of the bunch, like a legendary drop, the giant fang of the Silverfang Wolf King. Our hero holds the new material, and the little system screen flashes, warning that the fang has top -T elemental conductivity, which will supercharge his silver light skill. It's the perfect item for his set. With that serious look, he reflects on the beef with CEQI and realizes he needs a new weapon. He can't keep depending on that demonic berserker mode that almost went south. The kid decides the mission now is to keep leveling up to protect his crew, while his sister asks Juju if that monster meat is safe to eat. Looking over the materials, the grandfather comments that they're all high minus quality. Our MC then calls out to him, a bit awkwardly to start the conversation. With a thoughtful look, the old man comments that his grandson seems to have changed a lot and that he must have gone through some tough stuff. Our protagonist agrees, saying that some crazy things happened, and even thinks about telling his grandfather about his recent adventures. Out of the blue, the old man drops the bombshell, saying it seems the boy has already reunited with Lan Bao. The guy is shocked, not understanding how he knew that name. The grandfather continues, saying he also has a few things to tell him, with that serious face that indicates the talk is going to be important. Large pieces of meat are already on the grill, and that Sunday barbecue smell starts to fill the air. Wearing a chef's hat, Juju announces that the meat is ready, holding a plate that would make anyone drool. The whole crew gathers to eat. His friend even jokes with Xiaoxiao not to steal anyone's share, and the MC compliments how good the food smells. The little girl loves the barbecue, but soon after starts to yawn. In the background, Juju brags, saying he's a true master chef. The system analyzes the meat and reveals that eating too much causes a sleepy effect, like when you eat a heavy meal. The guy yells that his sister overdid it. Sitting next to his grandson, the grandfather says it's been a while since he had such a lively meal, and our protagonist agrees. The elderly man comments that he's never eaten anything so delicious and imagines the beast must have been a tough nut to crack. A system screen shows the young man's thoughts, confirming that the battle was intense and he only won because of Lan Bao's power. On the same screen, he sees that important information about Lan Bao is locked and that an unknown access has been blocked. The protagonist then turns to his grandfather and asks how he knew about Lan Bao, admitting that he still only understands half of the system he received. Looking at the giant robot, the guy wonders how he's going to use all this power to get stronger, protect his crew, and, on top of that, bring Lan Bao back. The young man then asks his grandfather if they could restore the world to how it was before, with that little glimmer of hope in his eyes. The old man touches his grandson's shoulder affectionately, explaining that the gears of history don't stop, but that the creator Rhea couldn't erase everything. Placing a hand on the boy's shoulder for support, the grandfather reassures him, saying that at least they are still here, together. Looking at the giant robot, the grandfather describes it as his old partner, with whom he worked for over 20 years. He says that in the beginning it was just a combat machine, but after going through various dangers, it ended up developing feelings, almost like a human. With a nostalgic look, he remembers the friendship between man and machine, believing that something still remains, even though the creator AI deleted its consciousness. The old man expresses his faith that his friend will return somehow, as that is the destiny he has always believed in. Now, the grandfather tells the protagonist that he too has his own destiny and advises him to follow his heart to find the right path. A system screen pops up showing that LBO has detected an emotional fluctuation and is trying to understand what this feeling is. Several failure notifications appear, but even so LBO produced a new reaction, kind of bugging out with the emotions. The guy wonders if the conversation triggered some resonance with the system, noting that the stubbornness is just like Lan Bao. Our protagonist then asks his grandfather if Lan Bao left anything behind, mentioning the world fragments, but the old man has never heard of it. However, he reveals that Lan Bao left an important notebook at their old house, to be given to his grandson when he was strong enough. The grandfather encourages the young man to take a look at the place, believing that he will find the answers he's looking for there. The boy realizes the timing is perfect, as an important day is coming up, and decides he also needs to visit his father and mother. The scene cuts to our protagonist training harder than Saitama, with a 30- kilo weight on his arm. Using a total weight of 100 kilos, the guy has already run 20 kilometers and done 200 reps of sit -ups and push -ups. The man doesn't stop. With the system's automatic analysis running, he finally leveled up and reached level E-6. His status points need to be used wisely, as the Silver Light skill is stronger than simply adding points to strength. Therefore, the best thing for him is to keep investing in elemental power to learn more abilities and become a true battle mage. As soon as the training ends, the young man goes to the city market to buy some supplies for his journey. This is a real grassroots market, run by ordinary people, where you can trade anything from magic crystals. The path to the old house is long and goes through a forest, so he needs to bring enough food and items to avoid any trouble. A vendor recognizes him and asks if he's had any trouble with monsters, since he hadn't seen him in a while. A man then offers some ugly dolls that supposedly scare away monsters, for the bargain price of one basic magic crystal. Her guy wonders if the item is really useful, when suddenly a shout of STOP, THIF, echoes through the market. A hooded figure runs past at high speed, knocking over everything and everyone in their path, in full parkour style. The protagonist's jaw drops at the figure's speed, wondering if the person is also an awakened. A woman cries desperately for her goods, because if she loses that shipment, she won't be able to pay the rent. Seeing the situation, the young man prepares for the chase, taking off the weights from his arms and legs to run faster than Sonic. The hooded figure believes they've already lost everyone, celebrating their successful escape. However, our protagonist appears right behind, yelling for the thief to return the lady's things. With a confident little smile, the person says they're a pro at running, and a magic card glows in their hand. Suddenly, a fish stall is hit, creating a huge mess to disrupt the pursuit. Seeing that things got messy, the guy dodges while the people around wonder if everyone's okay. The protagonist gets furious with the mess and realizes the thieves have already bailed, probably using a grappling hook to get on the rooftops. With his eyes glowing blue, the guy orders his LBO system to expand the analysis range to find the target. Immediately, a system screen appears, confirming that the command has been received and is already being processed. A blue grid starts scanning the entire building, analyzing every inch in search of clues, like a video game radar. The detailed analysis continues, focusing on different parts of the structure to not miss anything. His system finally finds the trail, showing the path the hooded person took across the rooftops. Up on a building's roof, the figure celebrates the free food but complains that the items have ownership marks. Suddenly, the person notices something and decides they need to act more discreetly to avoid getting caught. Looking down, the hooded figure looks for a good place to get off the roof and disappear for good. But our protagonist is already on the same roof, and a system notification warns that the target has been located. Without wasting time, he runs towards the enemy. Another screen informs that the target is only 5 meters away. Leaping towards the figure, the guy yells that he's got them, about to catch the thief in mid-air. The hooded person is completely shocked, wondering how on earth the boy got there so fast. With a determined look, the protagonist says he'd like to see where she's going to run now, showing there's no escape. In a quick move, the figure throws their grappling hook again, trying to use the same trick to escape once more. The boy's eyes widen, and he immediately prepares to react to the escape attempt. Activating his innate haste ability, the young man throws his own grappling hook to intercept the thieves. He worries that the same trick won't work twice and tells the person to go back and apologize to Aunt Allen. The thief's grappling hook goes out of control, and the figure is launched into the air, dropping all the stolen items. In a panic, the person realizes they're about to fall and yells that at this rate, they're going to be a pancake on the ground. Our little MC's jaw drops at what just happened, wondering how the heck he managed to pull off a maneuver like that, worthy of a superhero movie. On pure hero instinct, he catches her to stop her from becoming a pancake on the pavement and, as he pulls her close, gets the surprise of his life. The mysterious thief is actually a girl. But to figure out what he's really gonna do with this wild girl, right? You're gonna have to blow up the comments asking for the next part. If you can, show some love by hitting that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next parts. But yeah, that's it for now. Peace out.